The Browns are signing offensive tackle Ty Nsekhe, as Brad Steinberg was the first one I saw to share the news. Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, breaking down everything related to the Browns going into Week 2. So hit the sub button down below so you do not miss a thing. But let's get everyone familiar with the newest member of the Cleveland Browns roster, Ty Nsekhe, who is signed as a replacement to Dawand Jones, who is now replacing Jack Conklin. In fact, if you watched our episode yesterday, you would have seen Ty Nsekhe as a potential free agent target for the Browns, as Jed Wills had to get an x-ray after the game. Jack Conklin's out for the season. Two starting tackles, both dealing with some, severity of an injury. Might not be a bad idea to add some extra depth, and sure enough, Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski do that by adding the former UDFA out of Texas State, who's got experience in literally every single football league. Arena football to start, then the CFL, then the NFL, then the CFL, then back to the NFL, up and down from practice squads to active rosters. He had a long stint with the Dallas Cowboys, or long-ish at least, with the Cowboys and with the Redskins at the time. But most recently, last year, he played 10 games. He started 8 for the LA Rams, where I think PFF, deservingly so, gives him some good ratings, right? He was a good fill-in tackle, not glamorous, not a long-term piece by any means, but for 8 starts, 70.6 overall PFF grade, good pass blocking grade, 424 snaps, so not too small of a sample size or anything. I'm not going to pretend to act like I watched every little bit of Ty Nsekhe tape and film before this, but I'll trust PFF on this one and believe the Browns got a pretty good new backup tackle. And that's all this is, a backup tackle, right? With Dawand Jones being promoted to the starting job at right tackle, you needed a new backup just in case James Hudson got tossed into the line of duty. Who would be the next man up? Not Luke Whippler, not Nick Harris, so you needed to add an extra tackle, and Nsekhe hopefully will just kind of, no offense to him, ride the bench, because I don't want to see any more starting offensive linemen go down. But with Dawand Jones tossed into the starting role, I do want to get a pulse of everyone watching right now. What's your confidence level in Jones starting at right tackle? He was awesome in the preseason. If you didn't watch any preseason football, he was a major highlight. For me, scaling it 1 to 10, I'm at a solid 6.4. I don't want to get swept up too much in preseason football, but the guy held his own against against Hubbard and Hendrickson and the rest of that Bengals defensive line. Sam Hubbard, I was thinking of the old tackle Chris Hubbard, and he's got a big task coming up against TJ Watt and the Steelers. So for me, I'm at like a 6.4. Now, before we had the breaking news come out, we did have a fun show planned for everyone today. So here's what the original skeleton of the Browns report was supposed to look like. Dorian Thompson-Robinson trade to the Jets potentially after the Aaron Rodgers injury. I wouldn't be blown away if a phone call is made. And then the Steelers are down 2 starters going into their Monday Night Football matchup against the Browns. We'll touch on that at the end of the show. But let's talk about DTR potentially going to the Jets, because Brett Coleman, who runs a fantastic YouTube channel, he tried to put it out into the universe, DTR to the Jets, do it, do it, do it. A Browns voice, Nick Padone, was not a big fan of this idea. He said, I don't think the Jets would have a serious offer for DTR, and I don't think the Browns would even entertain that. Weird conversation ever since last night. But Warren Sharp definitely did not want to miss out on the DTR hype train. This is a petition to get Dorian Thompson-Robinson to the Jets. Make it happen by any means necessary, Woody. And once again, we kind of go from one end of the spectrum to the other end, where Brad Steinberg tweets out, no way the Browns would consider trading rookie quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson to the Jets. Even if Josh Dobbs was still here, I couldn't see it. So the national media wants to talk it into existence. The local media is saying this ain't happening. For me, negotiations started at first, which is absolutely ridiculous, and I know that, but that's kind of the point. I'm not interested in trading Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He showed us a lot of good stuff in the preseason. And in a day and age in the NFL where half of the starting quarterbacks go down for at least 1 week of the season, you don't want to have a bad backup plan in place. One of my favorite football stories ever was one time a reporter asked the Colts offensive coordinator, hey, I noticed that the backup isn't getting any runs with the first team offense. What happens if Peyton Manning goes down? And the OC said, Peyton Manning goes down, we're fucked. We don't practice fucked. So that's not a bad approach, but also you might want to have a decent plan in place. But actually, nothing less than a third-round pick. The Browns drafted him with a 5th. he has improved his value since then, right? He is no longer just a fifth-round pick. He is someone that would go for at least something more, which would be a fourth. But the Browns know the Jets are desperate, so you could kind of add an extra round to that, and so now you end yourself at a third, which I'm not advertising trade Dorian Thompson-Robinson for a third, but if the Jets were to call Andrew Berry and Berea and say DTR for a fourth, hang up the phone and say call back when we have the conversation starting at a third, and we'll build off of that. DTR in the preseason, 30 for 46, 348 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was a preseason darling. He was a preseason MVP, if you will. So I'm not interested in just trading him away just because you could get something for him. He's got some good value to him. And now I'm not just talking about trade value. I'm talking about his value on this roster, in this quarterback room with Deshaun Watson. I'm not just trying to trade DTR for the heck of getting a draft pick for a backup. No, you did that with Dobbs. Unless the Jets want to blow you out of the water with an offer you cannot refuse. And let's be honest, if the Jets offered a first for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, we would all happily take it. Deep down, you know that. But be honest with me, would you trade DTR to the Jets? Kind of exclude the details of what the compensation would look like. Surface level, is this something you'd entertain? Yes or no, trade or pass? Give me your opinions down in the comment section. Now, one of our longtime viewers here at the channel replied to my tweet about this. Dion Owens, an absolute legend and a staple of the Browns Report, tweeted out, responding saying, nope, sign P.J. Walker to active roster after Conklin goes on IR, then trade P.J. for a conditional pick. It starts off as a 7th rounder, but based on P.J. snap count, it can be turned into a 5th. Thoughts? I thought this was a very good idea, so I wanted to share it with all of our viewers, and yeah, sounds like a pretty good idea, honestly. I don't know if the Jets are interested in P.J. Walker after the horrible preseason he did have in Chicago, where the Bears were happily to obliged to eat a bunch of guaranteed money just to cut P.J. Walker because some UDFA quarterback out of a D2 school outplayed P.J. Walker. So I don't know if the Jets are really lining up to trade for him after that performance. Now, before we get to the rest of today's show, GameTime, our new sponsor here at the Cleveland Browns Report, has the best last-minute ticket prices for the Dawg Pound. Stop stressing about whether or not you're going to be able to go see your favorite team play or go to a concert or anything like that. GameTime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. Now, there are so many awesome benefits and perks with GameTime, but like I've shared before, by far my favorite is the bird's eye view they give you. You don't buy your ticket and then go to the Browns seating chart to figure out, where am I sitting? Is it a good seat? Is it a bad seat? No, with GameTime, every single ticket on there, you can see what your view will be before you buy it. So there's no surprises when you're hiking up Mount Everest to the top of the bleachers, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize it was this bad of a seat. I wouldn't have paid for it had I known beforehand. So thank you, GameTime, for sponsoring today's show. Make sure you download the GameTime app, by the way, and when you use promo code BROWNSCHAT, they give you guys $20 off. So I look at it as GameTime is buying your first beer and hot dog or whatever at a game, because with $20 off, you can just put that to concessions. So you walk into the stadium with a free meal waiting for you thanks to GameTime, more or less. But download the GameTime app, $20 off with your first purchase when you use the code BROWNSCHAT. All that information is in the comments and the description of today's video. Once again, thank you, GameTime. Download GameTime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. To kind of wrap up this DTR to the Jets segment, I just want to talk NFL as a whole for a minute or two here. Should the Jets stick with Zach Wilson? I thought he looked actually decent against the Bills after the 4th play of the game, right? 140 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Sure, the Jets cannot rely on a quarterback or the opposing quarterback turning it over 4 times in the game and a punt return in overtime to produce wins. That's not sustainable week after week. We know that. But I think Zach Wilson, I don't know, showed a little bit of spark, a little bit of spunk, you know what I mean? A little bit of whatever Mad Lib you want to fill in. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if Robert Saleh is like, listen, I have dealt with Zach Wilson. I am not a fan of Zach Wilson. I want to trade for a quarterback. And there are some, attainable trade targets out there. Jameis Winston is a backup. I saw someone float out Ryan Tannehill. I don't see the Titans doing it, but maybe. Teddy Bridgewater's a backup. Mitch Trubisky's a backup. Cooper Rush is a backup. All those are backup quarterbacks with legit starting NFL experience. Taylor Heineke's in the same boat, along with Gardner Minshew. What about a reunion with Mike White? He did some good things for them last year. How about Sam Darnold? How funny would that be if Sam Darnold went back to the Jets and started over Zach Wilson and actually took the Jets far? That would be the most NFL complete circle moment ever. Jacoby Brissett, our legend from last season, he's got to be better than Zach Wilson, right? Now, if the Jets don't want to give up a pick or something like that, there are some free agents out there. Tom Brady. Maybe Brady looks at this roster and he's like, you know what? It's so good, and I'm already past training camp, so I get to skip over the boring stuff. I'll come back and play 16 games. Phillip Rivers. Wasn't there a rumor last year that the Rivers camp was maybe trying to come back a little bit to where? With the Niners. That's it. Thank you, Trace. Matt Ryan. Maybe. Carson Wentz, he definitely wants to play. Joe Flacco's got experience with the Jets. And then Nick Foles is just the king of, coming out of nowhere and surprising you. So those are just some options for the Jets. Ultimately, I think maybe you should stick with Wilson, but I think there's going to be a change. Now, to wrap up the show, I do want to run through some quick injury news and notes going into Week 2 against the Steelers. Of course, the Browns are without starting right tackle Jack Conklin for the rest of the year. But they're not the only team that is dealing with injuries, as the Steelers are dealing with some injuries. But to put a bow on the Jets segment, is the Jets season over, yes or no? After 1 week, are we going to overreact and say they are cooked, they are done? Or do you think they can maybe rally around Zach Wilson and rip off some wins? So some Steelers players that are out for Week 2, though. Defensive tackle Cam Hayward, he is going to be out for an extended period of time. It sounds like 2 months is the targeted number I heard with a groin injury. And then wide receiver Deontay Johnson, he's also going to miss some time with a hamstring injury. Some more background on these two injuries here. Hayward, like I mentioned, expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks. Johnson, the quote is a few weeks. Well, that means Week 2 against the Browns. And by no means is this, and I hate when people do this, am I trying to spin this into good, let's root for injuries, this helps the Browns out? No, I want to see teams play all 22 starters when they face off so that the winner does not come out of that game with Mike Tirico going, but it's an asterisk. Like, that's just such a mood killer in my opinion. So it's a huge loss for the Steelers. Cam Hayward might not be the most valuable player on Pittsburgh's roster, but he might be the most important player, if that makes sense. Like, you don't want to lose Watt. He's the most valuable guy. Hayward is the glue guy, right? Hayward's the guy that brings beer to the party if they start running low. Hayward is everyone's best friend. And if you lose Cam Hayward, you're going to miss that leadership. You're going to miss that just instincts and presence on the defensive line. And as for Johnson, when you look at the Steelers' wide receiver room, George Pickens is phenomenal. We know that. Allen Robinson's getting a bit washed if he's not already the captain of Washed USA. Calvin Austin is just young and inexperienced. Without Johnson, which is going to be the case for Monday, it appears, it's Pickens, Robinson, and Austin. That means you have Denzel Ward on George Pickens, Martin Emerson on Allen Robinson, and then Greg Newsome dealing with Calvin Austin. I like my chances there. As for the Steelers' defensive line, no Cam Hayward. Next guy up is the rookie Keanu Benton out of Wisconsin. I think he had a good preseason, so this is not an addition by subtraction by any means, but I think Pittsburgh feels like they have some good depth on the defensive line where it's not a crushing blow. As for the Browns' injury side of things, we know Jack Conklin is out for the rest of the year, so Dawand Jones is the new guy at right tackle, and he's got a tall, not easy first task going up against T.J. Watt in his first true NFL start. PFF graded him at 49.7 in Week 1, but when we look at the entire PFF grades, that does not tell the whole story. Pass blocking was awesome, 77.8. Run blocking wasn't quite there, 38.4, but I just need him to keep Deshaun Watson healthy, right? Run to the left side. Run to Joe Bitonio's side of the field. Just make sure Dawand Jones does not have Watson getting sacked all the time. That is priority number 1 in your first start. But who you got in this game, Browns or Steelers? Let me know down in the comment section below. Type CLE for the Browns, type PIT for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I truly believe, and I'm not just saying this to gas everyone up, I got the Browns winning. They are a better team than the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are more talented. They looked way better in Week 1. What am I missing here? Outside of the history, which history does play a factor, and that tends to, be a big dark cloud that looms over teams. But ultimately, I think the Browns get it done. Before we get on out of here, I just want to give some quick shout outs to those of you that send in some super thanks to the channel. If you enjoy the content we do and you want to show some extra appreciation like John Smith did, who said, "My apologies for missing your fabulous show live, but enjoy now. Thank you on behalf of all Browns fans. Just ask my lovely wife to like and subscribe, even though she is a huge lifelong Kansas City Chiefs fan." John Smith and Mrs. Smith, thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. Chef Ruben sent a super thanks in as well. I always look forward to watching the show. Go Browns. Chef Ruben, always look forward to seeing you in the chat. Thank you so much. And then James Plunkett with silent but deadly super thanks here. Just saying thanks. James, thank you, my friend. All right, that's going to do it for us on this edition of the Cleveland Browns Report. Hit me up on Twitter, by the way, if you want more Browns coverage.